National Association of Realtors on today's program. Today's show live streams wherever you get your social media content, so give the show a like and a share. And we're happy for you, the viewer and listener, to join us in the discussion and share your perspective on the show. Judah Wickower is the man behind the camera. Wherever you're getting your podcasting or social media content, join us in the conversation, and I will relay your perspective live on air in an ever-changing real estate market. Officially the most expensive market currently in Central Virginia history. We're going to talk about that and a number of other news, notes, and trends that Keith has been keeping track of. I'll highlight some of the viewers and listeners that are watching before we start the program. We have on social media currently watching Kurt Johnson. Hello, my friend. Thank you kindly for watching. Philip says he loves the show on the Facebook group chat, which I think you need to deactivate. Facebook group has got the messenger chat. You need to close off, please, J-Dubs. Ginny Hu, hello. Bill McChesney, hello. Hop, hello. Welcome to the broadcast. Kristen Smith, hello. Sarah Hill-Buchensky, hello. Olivia Branch, thank you for joining us. Tom Powell, owner of Toy Lift. Jen Finazzo, Sal's Cafe Italia, welcome to the broadcast. Brittany Cassis, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you kindly for joining us. Holly Foster, Heather Walker in Johnson Village, hello and welcome to the show. Marlene Jones, thank you kindly for watching the broadcast. Seth Batten, welcome to the show. Realtors jump in with conversation. Ellie Tucker, hello. Trip Stewart, the real estate investor, hello. Thank you for joining us. Jason Howard, welcome to the broadcast. Hillary Murray, welcome to the show. Give the show a like and a share, and we will have a conversation with you on the Wednesday edition of Real Talk with Keith Smith. Very excited to connect with you guys on today's program. Judah Wickower, my friend, we can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. A pleasure to connect with you on a show that is 5 years and counting on the I Love Seville network, the show that's become the water cooler of real estate in the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors footprint. You, the viewer and listener, is encouraged to join us in and participate within the discussion by asking us questions. We will relay it live on air. The show airs wherever you get your social media and podcasting content. It's presented by Yes Realty Partners, a name you can trust in real estate. Yes Realty Partners. Keith and Yona Smith have been in the game since 1987, and their team is growing quickly. This boutique agency is really doing a hell of a job with helping buyers and sellers get to and through the finish line of real estate. Judah Wickower behind the camera. Judah, if we can go to the studio camera and then the two-shot as we welcome Keith Smith to the broadcast and as we highlight one of our fantastic partners, Interstate Service Company, a home's best friend. We're working on a deal right now with ISC, and Greg Wells and Interstate Service Company are doing a fantastic job.
You pick up the phone and they come. They answer the phone and they come. What else more can you ask for? In today's world, that's a lot to ask for.
And they perform as they say they will perform.
Absolutely. So this is the 6th year that we've gone over this report. So
6 years, wow.
We've been at it 5, but we looked at the years before. So this is year number 6 we've been looking at this report. And we've been talking about this for a while. You know, I'm just going to go this disclaimer and get out there. I have been rather open about my unhappiness with NAR. I think they've handled many things in their last 6 to 12 months, frankly, poorly. But one of the things, and I've been consistent about this, one of the things that they do better than anybody is the data. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why they're so good at that is because they have all the access to everybody's MLS data. So who knows how that process is going to move going forward. But we are now on the 2024 Home Buyers and Sellers Generational Trends Report. So they've been doing this for for decades, and they come out and they talk about, who's the profile of the buyer and the seller, and so forth and so on. So here's the tease, right? In 2023, when we did this, millennials were way down,
Right?
way down. Guess where they are now?
And the top slot.
They're in the top slot.
Yeah.
They have gained 10 percentage points year over year. So this is old and young millennials, right? They break them up into different sections. They are they're at 38% of the total sales. Now, keep in mind, Jerry, 2024 is really 2023 numbers, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's not actually this year's numbers on it. So 2023, which was really 2022 numbers, millennials made up 28% of the sales. So the boomers, which is yours truly, is starting to walk back a little bit. Last year in the 2022 year cycle, we were the prominent buyers. Right now, it's back to the millennial. The millennial buyer is in front position. The report doesn't talk about volume, right? Doesn't talk about, that's a whole different topic. But they're in there at the key spot. And when we started, I was thinking about this on the way in, Jerry. When we started this show 5 years ago, I've often said, keep an eye on the millennial. The millennial is the buyer pool. It's 170 million of them, depending on who you talk to, versus about 70 of us, and we're getting smaller each year. But if you take a look at the report, and I dropped it in my Facebook link feed, the sellers are the boomers, right? The 26 of the younger boomers, which is what I would fall into, is selling, and 19. So the combination between the two is the total sales. So the boomers are selling, the millennials are buying. It seems to have done a switch, but it still isn't even where 2022 was, because 2022, the millennials were 43% of the sales, of the total sales, which would have been 2021, which we were in the height of COVID at that point. So it looks like the millennials are coming back into the market. What they're going to buy and how they're going to buy is a whole different topic. But, we kind of talk about this report every year, and I wanted to kick the show off with that and see what anybody on the feed's got to say about it. And if not, I'll cherry pick a couple of slides here to talk a little bit about it.
Well, it would make sense that millennials, as they grow in their profession and mature in the workforce, are starting to become a larger, portion or segment of the buyer pool. They have more buying power.
So the term that they use is the household forming years.
Yeah.
Whatever that definition
And they're
is.
also getting married and having kids.
That's it. Getting married, having kids, and go ahead and do that. I'll tell you one of the things that just jumping around a little bit, that this report dropped yesterday, so I kind of read it early this morning and started picking it apart. You remember I've been predicting that the multi-generational households would increase?
Yeah.
That actually didn't happen.
Okay.
It stayed flat at 14%. So we've been staying flat at 14% of the sales to multi-generational. It sure feels like it should be more, at least from my perspective, but they have not increased at a rate that I had thought that they would increase. So we shall see. Time will tell.
Most expensive time in American history right now to buy a house.
So
Most expensive time in Central Virginia history to buy a house right now.
Yeah. So one of the great things, not great things, one of the things about being stuck in a car for 12 hours when you're driving down 95, when there's 2 tractor-trailer fires and a car fire on the George Washington Bridge, and 7 hours turns into 12.
Oof.
Yeah. The race didn't hurt my legs, but sitting in the car for 12 hours hurt my legs. You get to listen to podcasts and news and stuff, and it was just station after news station was talking about this lack of inventory. And at one time, Jerry, I forbid the term
On the talk show.
on the talk show.
On your talk show, not on the I Love Sevo show.
On my talk show.
Yeah.
But we really can't, because
How can you?
at the end of the day, I was listening to a report that was put out by the Finch Institute, which I have not a chance to read to it, but I was listening to it on the way down. And they said something pretty simple to take a look at. You know, you build more, you'll have more inventory, prices will start stabilizing. They're not saying prices are going down. We're not saying that, but we're saying instead of having double-digit or very high single-digit increases year over year, there'll be more traditional, somewhere between 3 to 6%. And it's interesting, in the areas where they allowed more building in Texas and Tennessee and some different states that I was listening to this report down, prices increase stabilized back to the normal rate. And that did that because there was more homes to be purchased. If you take a look at our market, if you take a look at the townhome market, that price is somewhat, it's not increasing at the same percentage rate as a single family detached home. And why is that? Because there's more being built, right? So the prices are being a little bit more realistic in their price increases. So, you know, look, I've been an advocate of more as long as I've been sitting in this seat. I still think our inventory crunch is going to be 10 more years before it gets better. And the only way it's going to get better is to allow more to be built.
I don't see the new construction happening anytime soon of merit around here. Perhaps the neighborhood that has some new inventory in its future is Spring Creek with 600 to 700 undeveloped lots.
That's right. That in Greene County.
Yeah, Greene County seems to be at its saturation with new construction. What they have in the pipe,
Yeah.
you know, the political will is not there.
I was on the phone on the way down with a couple of folks in Greene County. What's in the pipeline is in the pipeline.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to see anything.
Yeah, City of Charlottesville's got really nowhere to build. Curious to see whatever happens with Ix, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. The asking price is quite substantial. Albemarle County, until the development area is expanded, there's really not going to be any new construction there. I do think that there's an opportunity for what Southern Development is going to do eventually outside of the Glenmore neighborhood with some new lots coming, but I think really that's 100 or so at most. So really the car footprint, no new construction on the horizon.
Well, there is. It's just not
of significance.
It's just not enough to make a difference, right? And we've been beating this topic up quite a bit. You know, Flavanna's not gonna allow. They'll allow maybe some by right subdivisions, which is not allowable. It happens. You know, it happens by organically on that end of it. But any major subdivision, Flavanna's not going to do it. Louise is kind of pushing that way too. Greene is just going to process what it has, which is roughly 2,000 units on it at that point. I mean, if you follow the politics of Greene County and some of the readings that Neil and his team has been putting out, you're starting to see the Board of Supervisors there kind of getting into the planning business, right? And, you know, of course, the planning department or commission works at the will of the board, but there's a couple of projects that recently went through the Greene County Planning Commission that got approved by the Planning Commission and flat out rejected at the board level. So that tells me there's a disconnect between the planning side and the board side. So I think you're going to see those things hit the brakes a little bit. So, you know, the bottom line is maybe the most expensive time to buy, but the best time to buy is now. If you can afford now and get into the home now, your value is only going to go up for the foreseeable future.
You see the tax rate collection data that was released yesterday?
I didn't get a chance to read it.
Louisa County, the overall leader in the chamber footprint, data accumulated by the Chamber of Commerce.
You're talking about sales tax.
Sales tax,
business tax.
first quarter of this year versus first quarter of last year. Louisa County, year over year, 19.3% increase in sales tax data collection. Albemarle County was second in the chamber footprint with a year-over-year of sales tax collection increase of 5.41%. Fluvanna, Charlottesville, Augusta, Greene, and Waynesboro were flat.
So, yeah, I mean,
Two increases really of merit.
Yeah.
Louisa at 19.23% year over year, and Albemarle County at 5.41%. Charlottesville, Augusta, Fluvanna, Greene, and Waynesboro flat.
well,
And the interesting thing about being flat is that's a time of year over year when prices have spiked. So if you're flat, really you can make an argument that you've had less widgets sold because the cost of goods has increased.
and if this is quote unquote commercial business taxes, right? That's what we're talking about.
This
right?
is
sales,
retail tax.
yeah, sales
Yeah.
tax, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It only puts more pressure in my home county on my rooftop.
Which is what we said yesterday on the talk show.
And you know why Louisa County's always knocked that out of the ballpark, right? They were in front of it, and part of the reason they were in front of it was, my God, I've been here since '87, so how many years that is. They were the first ones really to tackle the infrastructure challenges in Zion's Crossroads, and just are knocking it out of the park because they have the tax base there.
Friend of the program, Fitzgerald Barnes, Board of Supervisor, Louisa County. Touching base with him on bringing on him coming on the 12:30 show.
Oh, cool.
To spotlight Louisa's emergence as a player in commercial with what it's doing at Zion's Crossroads and residential.
And what it's really doing with the data centers. That's going to be a tremendous amount of thing. So I do want to get back to this report real quickly. So the primary reason for purchasing a home, this is slide number 27, if you can take a look at it. An interesting fact, the 25 to the 33 age group was 49% said the desire to own a home. So there is some thought out there that some of the younger buyers, right? So 23 to 25 would be hold on a second, let me check our chart, make sure I get the right folks here, the right, would be let me see, the Gen Zs, right? That would be a Gen Z, is the 23 to 25, but 45% of them are wanting to own a home. So there's a lot of conversation out there in the marketplace that some of these younger folks are giving up. It's not quite 50%, but it's at least a larger percentage. Now here's a skew on that comment. These are questions asked of people buying homes, so they're already in the market, right? So the people that are not wanting to get into the market, we don't know what that number is. That makes any sense?
That makes perfect sense. Rates, folks are asking on the feed, guys, we don't have a crystal ball on where rates are going to go. Some say that you're going to have no rate cuts for the rest of the year. You have a presidential election that's on the horizon here. Some say you're going to have rate increases. Who knows? We've had chief economists from many organizations be flat out wrong, and we've seen them wrong. What we do know, and to Keith's point, is the cost of housing is going to continue to go up. So while some people say this is the most expensive time to buy a house in American history right now, and maybe you should wait, to Keith's point, he says the cost of that house is only going to get more expensive. Then the flip side of that argument is, well, if rates drop, that could counterbalance or counteract the escalating costs of that house. But really, there is no right answer.
Well, what they do is, people always, for the most part, a large percentage of people buy by the monthly payment. So as interest rates go down, but what will happen is the interest rates go down, you're starting to see a stabilization of price. And some people kind of went in a little high, particularly in the city of Charlottesville, in my opinion, and they're now starting to adjust their prices. They're not going below where they were last year, but they're not as accelerated as they, I think, would want them to be. But it's interesting. I don't know if I sent this to you. Did I send you slide 46? I probably didn't. This is the expected length of tenure in homes purchased. Thank you. This is the expected length of tenure in homes purchased. So why I like this slide, this is actually folks that are being asked at the closing table, how long do you expect to stay in a home? We're now up to 15 years. The median time is 15 15 years. And you remember when we started the show 5 years ago, what was that, Jerry? 5 or 6 years. We're now up to 15 years. So if people are expecting to stay in their home longer, we're not producing enough homes. It's just a recipe for increased in value. But back to why people buy. People buy because they have to. The largest percentage of it, and I will tell you that the exact number here in a minute, once I get to that slide, it's 150 pages. So I want to make sure that I give the right. So there are 26% of all buyers, it's the desire to own a home. 12% is closer to family and friends, and 5% is for retirement. There's an 11% for desire for larger homes is the next big one. But the primary one is, two big ones are desire to own a home and be closer to friends and retirement. That's all buyers. Obviously, as you go up in the age group, some of these numbers drop a little bit. But 25 to 23, 49% of them want to own a home.
Ricardo Duran watching the program. Hey guys, I love the show. Welcome back, Keith.
Thank you.
Ricardo Duran.
What do you think about this, Ricardo?
Yeah, your thoughts on this, Ricardo Duran?
Well, and particularly about the, and I'll go ahead and find it, but the Hispanic buyer has increased quite a bit. Again, this came in, dropped late yesterday. I read it pretty quickly this morning. I'm going to try to find out to see if they have a slide on the ethnicity, but I know for a fact, because NARAP is putting it out, the Hispanic buyer is nationwide growing rather rapidly.
Bill McChesney, 37 years this year, he says.
37 years.
We appreciate you, Bill McChesney. Fabian Kutner, thank you for watching the program. We appreciate you, friend, when you watch the show. Let us know your thoughts on that. I will relay it live on air as well.
7% of all buyers were Hispanic and Latino. The largest group of Hispanic and or Latino was the 25 to 33 age group at 11%. But, the white Caucasian is 80, 81, 79, 75, all the way through. But the next largest block of that is the Hispanic and the Latino buyer, and the 25 to 33 age group is the largest at 11%. So 11% of all the sales were Hispanic or Latino between the ages of 25 to 33. I'm wondering if Ricardo agrees with those numbers.
Chuck Ramey and Yona, your beautiful better half, watching the program right now. This question's been put on
care of grandbabies.
Put on the feed. Have sales come to a halt?
No.
Locally?
No.
And how do they compare versus the previous quarter this time last year?
Yeah, so we did a show with that with the slides. I don't have them in front of me, but I can easily just take a look at the car footprint and quickly go from year to date and do it for year to date from last year live.
You can just give a pack and napkin,
Yeah. So look,
if you want all the shows, guys, with the data, realtalkwithkeithsmith.com.
Yeah. So anyway, make a long story short, when we did the end of the first quarter in the first couple of days of April, the car footprint, if I remember the numbers correctly, price was up 9%, and I believe volume was down 6%. I'd have to go double check it. But look, prices are increasing, volume is decreasing. I have not run any numbers since the end of the quarter to now, but that is not, look, prices the market is not cooling down. But we did do a show where I did predict that the summer is probably going to impact the market a little bit this year, which is normally, I did a slide where we talk about...
Oh, you thought it was going to be return to more seasonality.
Well, there's always been seasonality.
And you thought that we are coming out of our hot spot for 2024.
April and May,
yeah,
right, and the little touch of June is generally your peaks, right? And then when you start going into your July, August, beginning of September, you start working your way down. You come back up somewhere around the end of September and October, November, then you hit your December and come down. The difference on that chart that I put together a few shows back was during COVID, right, everything was elevated. It still did this little bit of this bump, but we're now back to these more, from my perspective, these more traditional up and down. And you can see that by where I tracked the 7 days. You know, we were pumping out a lot of 100-plus homes on the market. We're now back down to, I'll tell you here in a second, I think 70-something. 79. We got 79, so we're now hovering somewhere between 70 and 80. We were at about 100 new homes a week, but we're still at 90 pending. So roughly 80 came on, 90 went pending, 78 went sold in the last 7 days. So we're kind of in this little bit of a trough, I think beginning on our way down on it.
Ricardo Cruz Duran, he says, and he's in the loan business.
He is.
Loan officer. He says, totally, you know, Hispanics are resilient. Even through tough times, they always find a way to get through it. However, with the current state of the housing and with NAR's settlement, it will be a large detriment to the numbers. Hispanic ownership percentages have been increasing over 7 years now.
Yeah, the settlement is going to make it extremely difficult on the Hispanic buyer.
Explain what he means by that.
Well, so I don't know how I can do this without getting myself into trouble. So the which I'm kind of famous for, they don't have a trust in the system to start with, typically, and somebody with very good linguistic skills and knowledge of how to communicate what's going on is going to be needed. I'm surely not that person, right? I can explain it, but I could never do it to somebody that, their primary language is Spanish. So somebody between me and the buyer is going to have to get proficient at explaining how this process works, because there's this innate trust of the system. Most immigrants feel that way too, by the way. So explaining this clearly, concisely, so that the buyer can understand it is going to be a challenge. I know I can't tackle it. I have a hard time speaking English, nevertheless.
The first-time home buyer seems to be the one in the toughest position with this.
They're in a toughest position. I don't know if you've seen this, but DOJ. Did you read that?
I did.
DOJ is not happy with the settlement. So this ain't over, folks.
Yeah, you should set the table for that.
Yeah, so it was a settlement that was done before the big NAR settlement up north, right? And I'm paraphrasing the article because I read it last night when I got home. DOJ is basically saying, we're not really happy with this. DOJ is saying, at least in this article, according to Inman and Reese Media and Housewire, that they don't want to see any mentioning anywhere of buyer broker compensation by the seller, or excuse me, by the listing agent. Now, right now, what's in the agreement, yet to be approved, is that it can't be in the MLS. So that doesn't mean I can't hire Jerry, which we need to talk about after the show, hire Jerry to put a tab on our website so I can talk about our listings for what we're doing on the buyer compensation. But if you read that article, it sounds like DOJ, now we've been talking about this for a while, DOJ and FTC,
Federal Trade Commission, FTC.
Basically are in the middle of this. And if they don't like how this thing gets settled out, they may put their thumb on the scale. Now, November may change all that.
Yeah, the election. It does remind me of the old African proverb, when elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers.
Oh, amen to that.
And when the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors are going toe-to-toe, it's the first-time home buyer.
Well, there's a history there, right?
That suffers.
And there's a history with DOJ and NAR, right? There was a settlement, then depending on which side of the story you're speaking, you're reading, DOJ backed out. NAR is apparently implementing this settlement with DOJ, but the Department of Justice could very well put its thumb on the scale. And we've talked about this on previous shows. So keep an eye on the DOJ, and that might make this even more complicated. Back to Roberto's comment and the first-time home buyer. At the moment, you can. It's always been negotiable, right? So you can negotiate this in the purchase. And if you take a look at all the transactions, which I've been doing, you'll see very few buyer broker compensations at 0 or 1% or some lower numbers. For the most part, they're between 2.5 and 3%. The thing is it will not be as August, I believe it's 17th now, they bumped it to August on it. It will not be in the MLS. And how do we do that? Well, we do it just like I'm going to Richmond to open up 4 houses tomorrow. I'm using homes.com. I've spoken to all the agents. I've had them send me emails about compensation. My buyer broker agreement with the buyers that we're doing out there has very clear and concise how this works. It's documented. Thank you very much. We're moving forward. Next week, I'm gonna do a PSA for all agents.
Okay, and what's the PSA? Give us a tease.
So myself and 6 local attorneys are working on an addendum amendment to the contract, which spells out what the agents are, who's paying who and when.
And who are those attorneys?
Oh God, it's Bill Tucker, John Ralston, Cox, and a couple other ones with names.
Jim Cox, done business with him. Larry McElwain.
McElwain is the other one.
Famous for wearing Birkenstocks.
Burks, yeah.
Bill Tucker, famous for sandals. Jim Cox of Mickey Hamlet fame.
So we are not ready to uncork it yet, but I created it. I asked the real estate attorneys to create it as an Gesundheit, as an open source form. Gesundheit.
Open source. You mean a living, breathable document that folks can edit?
Anybody can use it. And what it does is it follows the model of the commercial contract. We've been talking about this for a while. So it'll get added in there so it's clear as bell. Basically, it's a commission disbursement form that everybody signs at the contract level. So this will all be negotiated in the front end. The question becomes, for the first-time home buyer, if the seller says, I'm not going to pay this, then they're up against the wall, because not only can they not find something, not only are they paying more because interest is a little high, not only do they have to walk through a lot more hoops than they had, talk about difficulty in buying, than 10 years ago because of regulatory requirements, now they have to figure out where they're going to get extra cash from. So it's going to be a challenge.
Rob Neal, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for watching the show. Johnny Ornalis, que pasa? Andre Xavier, hello. Donna Price, thank you kindly for joining us on the show. Woody Fincham, Travis Hackworth, Vanessa Parkhill, Aaron King, thank you for watching the show. Bob Yarborough, the king of Redfields, watching the program. His neighborhood is always very, very, very hot. Stephanie Wells Rhodes.
I was in Mill Creek today looking at
welcome to the broadcast. Mill Creek, parallel to Redfields, just Avon extended instead of Fifth Street extended. The south side of Charlottesville is always very popular with buyers and sellers. So how do you characterize today's market? Healthy? Would you use the adjective healthy to characterize today's market?
No. I don't think we've had a healthy market for a very long time.
Okay. Would you characterize today's market as steady?
So we have to define, let's go backwards for a second. Let's define, in my interpretation, a healthy market. And it was interesting because this NPR piece, I was listening, driving down, Dr. Lawrence Yun was actually talking about what a healthy market is, right? So, under normal market conditions, if a buyer wants to buy a home, they're generally not rushed to make a decision. Okay, let's look at a couple of homes, let's weigh a couple of differences in it. But that buyer hasn't had that ability to do that for a very long time. Now, certain micro markets, they may be able to do that, right? Again, back to my 6 things, right? If it's in the right location, it's priced right, it's got the right features, it's got the right condition, then the timing is now, and then, of course, who's on the other side matters, then these properties trade like that. But if you're not in the right location or don't have the right price, and it sits for a while, then it gets a little sticky. If it doesn't have the right features or it isn't in the right condition, this home I looked at in Mill Creek for a buyer in the right location, price is a little high, but not that high on it. It's a typical Mill Creek thing, but the condition's a bit questionable. So we're looking at the condition end of it and what do we need to do to bring the house up to, let's say, better condition on it. But it's not big things. It's like paint and change out carpet, that kind of thing.
What's the price point when it comes out in Mill Creek?
It hasn't hit the market yet, so I'm going to be reluctant to talk about that at the moment. So I was looking at it off market, getting ready before it hits the MLS. I was asked by an agent to take a look at it for my opinion, and I've got a buyer that's also interested in it.
This is an interesting question for you. Do you expect the remaining 6 months of the year? I mean, we have, 7 months, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Let's call it 7 months. Basically, May is done. Do you expect the remaining 7 months of the year?
Just the fact that you said that.
Just did my our oldest son's kindergarten graduation today.
Oh.
It was pretty fantastic.
Cool.
But
I did not know that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Do you think the remaining 7 months of the year is going to be stronger than the final 7 months of last year from an inventory sold standpoint? Or do you think the inventory numbers from a sold standpoint will be lower than last year's?
Well, we're watching inventory drop, right? We've been tracking that week over week. We've been tracking that. We were between 80 and 100, a little bit over 100 for a good number of weeks. We're now starting to creep our way backwards, which goes back to where I think you're going to start. When you start hitting the summer months and kids out of school, traditionally, the market kind of slows down a little bit. Then I think you're going to see a big pickup in the fall and the summer. But I think we're now back to this normal peaks and valleys of inventory. It's just the volume is way off, right? So the market, I think, is moving like it traditionally moves, but just the number of transactions are way down. And that's what I'm trying to look at for you right now.
Have you seen a drop in agents?
I haven't tracked that, to be honest with you, because apparently I can't. But
why can't you track that?
They took it out of the NAR. You're talking about a car or
locally?
No, I haven't really tracked it, to be honest with you. So I have not, is the short answer.
And you're searching now inventory numbers?
I'm looking at sold everything in Charlottesville. Let me make sure I got this right. Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fluvanna, Louisa, Nelson, and Green. So this is everything attached, condos, and detached. So year to date, there was 1,210 sold. And let me give you the median sales price real quick. Now, this includes condos and everything. So the median sales price of everything, new construction, all type of product types, is 4,588. So I'm going to call it $459,000.
Okay.
So that is now your median sales price.
Unbelievable.
From the beginning of this year. And that includes, like I said, attached, which is your townhomes, and these duplexes that they're two single-family homes attached, but they're still considered attached. So let's see what it was last year. So all I got to do is take 24 and turn it into a 3.
Do you need a Stripe? You do? Okay, fantastic. I'll get that to you through Messenger, J-Dubs.
So we're not that far off. We're the same point last year was 1,259. I can't do the percentages that closely, but we're not that far off. We're, let's call it 50 units off in 5 months.
That's pretty close.
That's pretty darn close. Let's take a look at the price.
I mean, the price is obviously up.
Yeah. You want to take a gander on what it was?
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine.
459 for this year versus 425.
So what is that? 5%?
It's 5 or 6%, which again is kind of on the
10%
top.
would be what? 42. Half of that is 21. So
Yeah.
5.5%, 6%.
Let's call it 6%.
Yeah.
So that's on the top end of the normal, right? The 3 to 6% year over year. So back to your point. Now again, micro markets matter, right? Right. So we're looking at big picture numbers. But if you bought a detached townhome or condo last year, by looking at the big footprint of Charlottesville Area Association Realtors footprint, you gained 6% in value. And everybody last year was saying, wait. Well, if you would have wait, now you're paying 6% more.
I see it from both sides. I understand, why, you would want, folks to buy now. I also see why some of your colleagues are saying to wait, because the expectation is the interest rate could drop a point or more.
So what do you think is going to happen to prices if interest rates drop?
I think you'll have a deeper buyer pool, and you'll get back to a little bit of craziness.
Which means the prices are going to go up.
I mean, Keith, there's people right now that can't enter the market.
Well,
So
that's
a point and change drop is going to create a level of affordability that they can't get now.
The real problem, Jerry, is there's no bleeping inventory.
Yeah, right.
And
So-
we're not
So that's why folks are saying,
We're not-
some of your folks are saying to wait.
correct. But if inventory isn't, even if interest rates drop, let's think this through for a second.
Yeah.
At least I will. If interest rates drop, prices are going to go up because there's going to be more pressure on what little inventory we have. So even if interest rates drop, whatever they may drop, the prices are going to go up. So you're still going to pay more money.
I mean, it seems to be, it seems from my standpoint that the market has tendencies to it that don't always make the most sense to me. I know from firsthand, I've talked briefly about this. My wife and I sold our home in Keswick, and it was an out-of-market, all-cash buyer who waived all contingencies with the purchase and allowed an extensive leaseback. A lot of folks would not do that.
No, and that's micro markets matter.
But I mean,
price point matters.
This market for an extended period of time couldn't move any inventory.
Yeah.
That micro market.
Correct. Oh, without doubt.
Yeah,
Without doubt.
and now
historically. By the
yeah,
way.
and now you're talking out of market, all cash buyers, short close, no contingencies, lengthy lease back.
Yeah, but if you take a
There's
look,
a lot of people that would not navigate those waters.
no, because if you go take a look at what's going on here, your cash is still 33%.
Right, that's
or
what I'm
more.
saying, yeah.
More of the market. The thing is I'm taking a look at attached numbers, right? It's interesting. When I was up in New York for this race, anybody who's a fellow New Yorker know what 1010 Win News is, right? It's this 24-hour news thing. Everybody listens to it because you got to figure out what the freaking traffic is looking like.
Okay.
But they were talking about housing affordability up in New York and the tri-state area, which, by the way, has about 25 million residents, permanent residents. That doesn't include me and the tourists and all that kind of great stuff. So it's way more than 25 million people in the tri-state area on it. But they were
Deep Throat, 1010 wins. You give us 22 minutes,
we'll give you the world. I freaking love it. I was listening. Not only
Deep Throat. So
but it works, I had it beats Google, it beats everything. You got to listen to it on it. And there was a fire on the George Washington Bridge, a car fire. Karma bit me on the butt, because when I was on the bridge with nobody on it, I was going, oh, look at me, I'm only, we're on the shutdown bridge, and then it got stuck. But 1010 Winds said, hey, there's a fire, and I got rerouted around it. But so
I haven't forgotten that email, Deep Throat. In fact, I'm going to do it within the next 30 minutes here.
So I'm taking a look at attached sales. So attached sales were up year over year. 2023, this is a big throw up, right? This is, I didn't break out new construction. This is all the jurisdictions, and it's whatever Paragon is calling attached, which do include duplexes. Last year, there was 203, this is an important point I'm trying to make here. There was 203 sold. The median sales price was $434. There's 244 sold now. So there was roughly 40 more units sold. Remember back to that number, which included this, we were like 50 or 60 units off. Well, most of them, majority of them, are these attached product. And guess what the price is? Flat. It's freaking flat. It's exactly the same number as it was last year. So what that's telling me, and I'm not that smart as Deep Throat, he's way smarter than I'll ever be.
Smart guy.
But I'm smart enough to know if you build more, prices will stabilize. And that's what's happening. Now, keep in mind, that's 244 out of roughly 1,200 sales. So it's not a huge percentage of the total sales, but there were more attached sold in 2024, full car footprint, than 2023, and the price stayed flat. Well, why is that? If I click on new construction versus not, you'll see that there was more new construction units came on the market in 24 than they were in 23. And why did that happen? Is because somebody 6 years ago started that process, and they're now starting to hit the market. So you either got to make this, people either need to, look, I'll get myself into trouble, particularly in my peer group. I am not a NIMBY person by any stretch of the imagination. But here's kind of the numbers, right? So if Fluvanna County would have allowed more units to be built, the prices would be stabilizing. But if you look in Fluvanna County, it is not stabilizing.
Fluvanna County is not going to do that, though.
No. But the numbers are proven. It's not huge, but they can do that. And I'd love Deep Throat to push back on that if he wishes to.
The Fluvanna state of the county would seem, if you're a homeowner, that you're going to have considerably more downward pressure on your houses funding the county. What's it, 92% of Fluvanna County comes from real estate taxes, the budget?
I thought it was closer to 96.
Is it 96?
I believe.
I mean, that's your county.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. It's so high I don't pay attention to it anymore. I used to be very vocal about it, that we need to go ahead and do it, but it's just not happening. We're not getting the businesses to come in there. We have become the bedroom community for Charlottesville and Richmond, right? People are traveling from Lake Monticello or northern parts of, eastern parts of Fluvanna County to go to Richmond to work. So, but anyway, attached is staying flat according to these numbers year over year. I didn't break out the new construction yet, but a majority of them are new construction. Oh, by the way, majority of them are in Albemarle County.
We appreciate you, Vanessa, quite a bit as well. James Watson, hello. Neil Williamson, hello. Thank you for watching the program. Heather Mall, the appraiser, watching the show. Heather, we appreciate you quite a bit. Albert Graves, Tom Powell, Georgia Gilmer. Thank you for watching the show. Christelle, who lives in Lake Monticello, is watching the show. Seth Liskey, the Stantonian real estate investor. Tripp Stewart, the real estate investor. Bill Mooncachi, watching the program. Ray Cadell, the realtor and broker, watching the show as well. And James Watson, I appreciate all the content we share back and forth. Curious if you saw that defense contractor L3 Harris Technologies plans to construct a new facility, hire 80 people at a local plant it acquired, and it's fueled by DoD weapons contract.
Yeah, that's in Orange County.
$41 million expansion, a rocket factory in Orange County.
And I think that's great. Great for Orange County. I think that's great. I think that kind of economic development is awesome. My question is where they're going to live, right? Where are these folks going to live? So it's interesting. while we're on the NAR question, and let me see, because there's a couple of slides that that they've added this year that they have not added the year before. And I'm going to double check that while I get this out there. So buyer representative arrangement with agent. So there's a section in the report. So this is slide 63. There's a section in the report where it talks about the value of an agent, so forth and so on. It's very... Oh, I probably forgot to send it to you. It's okay. So the buyer representative agreement. So this is back to, this whole NAR settlement and having to have a written agreement. Now, let's set the stage a little bit. State of Virginia has had it for a long time. I believe it's 12 years that you're required to do a written buyer-broker agreement. Many states don't. So this is a national look at. But it's very interesting. In 2023... only 41% of all the buyers had a written agreement with their buyer's agent. This ain't my numbers. This is NAR's number. 17% had an oral arrangement, which I don't understand. And 26% of all buyers did not have an arrangement at all. And 16 didn't know. So I'm going to put that 16 into the 26. So we're somewhere around 42%. So basically 41% had a written agreement, the other 40% didn't. And that's what got us into trouble, folks. There was not this clear expectation given to the buyer on how we get compensated on it. And the largest percentage group that had a written agreement is the 44 to 58 age group at 46%. So 40 simple numbers, 40% had a written agreement, 40% didn't, and 20% had an oral agreement.
Bill McChesney says, Keith, won't an interest rate drop cause some of these geezers to move out? That's what some of the speakers on upzoning said needs to happen to create affordability.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Bill, but I don't know any geezers. It will, but it's just going to... I was thinking about on the way coming here, what was the topic that I really wanted to push on today. Yeah, look.
I think an interest rate drop is going to create additional inventory. You're going to see considerably more inventory come in the market when rates drop.
But it's going to...
It's also going to create a buyer's bonanza with more competition.
And there is way more buyers in the market than there is inventory. According to Yoon, it would take, I believe he said 5 years at building 1.5 million new houses just to get to a balanced market. So we're so...
That's national. I think we can almost...
But it's worse here.
Way worse. I think we can discount the new construction impact.
And locally. The point I'm trying to drive
home... Take that out.
I understand that. So if that's the case, if interest rates drop...
Yeah.
Keith and Yona said, no. Yona finally convinces me to move.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm going to buy is going to be that much more expensive because I'm going to be competing. Now, the only difference I'll have... which then we're going to get back into this generational conflict.
You're going to have a pile of money.
I'm going to have cash.
The reason we were talking about was selling our house.
Because I have cash.
Walked away with a pile of money.
I have cash, and now I'm in a much better position, which is only going to cause this 40 more pressure on this 38% of millennials that bought last year.
100%.
That I'm sure there's some cash.
But how we weigh the scales of justice, and my wife and I are at the dinner table, is I think if we do this now, we have less competition on what to purchase. And if we have less competition on what to purchase, we can get a price that's different of what's going to come next year or the following year. We understand that rates are going to drop, and then we just refinance and get a better rate.
Yeah, so you're making my argument for me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
100%.
But I'm in a unique position.
But
I'm in a unique position in that because of the equity accrued, I was able to make the move.
But there are many people like you. So the average...
I'm also in a unique position in that I've done this many times.
And that is true. But most people
This would be transaction 17.
So most people have between 300 some odd $1,000 of equity in their house. They have a ton of equity that they can go and do this. This is the most time that anybody's ever had this
100%.
percentage of equity.
Yeah.
But does everybody not forgot about the COVID insanity? That's what's going to happen here, guys. When interest rates drop, buyers are going to flood into the market. There's just not going to be enough inventory to satisfy those buyers, which is going to continue the price to go up. And I just unhooked the line here. Again, if there's more units coming in there, and you're 100% right. I'm doing Captain Obvious. I don't have the socks on, right? The reality of it is, if I had a magic wand, which we have one here somewhere, if I had a magic wand and can wave it and produce a bunch of new homes, the market would look very differently pretty quickly. But it's not. This is not going to happen. You're not going to do it. All of a sudden, you're going to have 50,000 new units in Charlottesville. Ain't going to happen, folks. This pressure on price is just going to go up unless there is something that happens that impacts everybody, aka the time of great unpleasantness.
Yep, which you've highlighted.
Which there is nothing on the horizon to do that at the moment that's seeing that. It's just, But look, I don't mean to brag, but we are 30% higher than we were this time last year. We just bring knowledge and help people navigate through the process. That's what we do. And, it's difficult to bid. It's difficult to get on homes. You just got to bring your skills to the table and make it happen and focus on the client's best interest.
Deep Throat says this. He says, by the way, I don't dispute that the supply that is in the pipeline with the characteristics of his existing housing will dampen price increases. What I dispute is that zoning is a major barrier to supply here, and that supply that is at much more luxurious market tier will help. More attached units in the $350,000 to $400,000 price point will help. However, new inventory at Spring Creek will not help Louisa County become more affordable.
It will not.
I totally agree.
I don't disagree with him at all.
The new inventory that's going to, 100% agree with him, the new inventory that's going to come to market in Spring Creek is going to be single-family detached, 3,500 square foot homes and larger on a half an acre or bigger, and they're going to be priced in the vicinity of what? $600,000 and up. Louisa County, we said it on yesterday's show, is going to be the Crozet. What Crozet was, Louisa is. 20 years ago, what Crozet was, that's what Louisa is now. And when Louisa continues to see this massive influx of people through economic development, through schools coming online, through COVID in common sense fashion, with a proximity to employment, the interstate, et cetera, Richmond, Louisa is the new Crozet. And in 15 or 20 years from now, we're going to see a completely different Louisa that folks that live in Louisa right now may not even be able to recognize.
Yeah, but that ship has been moving for quite some time. So, it's not. So it's very interesting. 0124 to 05, only 8. I've got to double check that. I can't believe that. It's showing only 8 homes have sold in Spring Creek since the beginning of the year. Hold on a second. That's new construction only. Check that. 19. So 19 units have sold in Spring Creek this year. To your point, 5. This is both attached and detached. There's very little attached there. It's 549. Let's see what last year's looked like. The volume is just not going to be huge at Spring Creek at this point. But to Deep Throat's point, I disagree with him on the zoning, because zoning is, there were 17 sold last year, so we're a little bit above.
2 ahead.
And 476. So we jumped from 477. We jumped from 477 to 549.
Yeah, Spring Creek this time next year, you wait and see, is going to have. It's
But
going to
the
be
problem
a 6.
is we're looking at 20 units.
Yeah.
We're not.
Only 20 units.
I get it, but it's the largest. There are no attached products that I'm aware of in the pipeline for Zion's Crossroads at this affordable price point. There's just whatever affordable is. But this is zoning that makes it difficult. 25% of all new construction is regulatory expenses. If you can reduce that and make this more cost effective, but it also starts an already willing and able property seller. I'm working with some clients in different jurisdictions that are trying to buy land, and it's just super expensive. The math won't work. So between the expenses that it costs to develop it, the restrictions that local jurisdictions are doing, right? They're doing this on purpose. Louisa, Fulvana, and Green want high-end homes because of the dollars it pulls in. It does not want lower-end homes. It's that simple. And generally, they don't impact schools because they're geezers on it. So that's what they want to do. They're intently doing it that way, and they're not allowing these developments to come in that are higher density. And
To wrap, we'll close on this.
look at that. I'm sorry.
The mortgage-backed, he says, Deep Throat, the mortgage-backed security guys at his firm think a lot about the lock-in effect.
Oh, yeah.
One way to think about it is to say that all of the locked-in homeowners are sitting on shadow inventory, but also constitute shadow demand, and that they need to move somewhere after they sell. The tricky thing is that the shadow inventory and the shadow demand may be for different geographies. Think of it as the places where boomers are retiring from, that's where the inventory is, and where they might be retiring to is where the shadow demand is.
So it's interesting. I was just up in Connecticut on that end of it, and you're seeing the people retire, and they're getting sucked in by the millennials by multiple offers. There was a couple of homes around the street of my daughter's house that hit the market and sold just in a matter of a few days I was there. Exact situation. These people in their homes for 30, 40 years, retired, went down to wherever the heck they went, and it just, there was a sucking sound.
I think we're seeing that in the city of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
We're seeing a population decline.
But it's the whole market overall, but we're way past. So
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll continue the discussion, guys, at 12:30. A lot we're going to cover on the program, including more businesses for sale. We have those details for you. $40 million investment into Orange County and a fair amount of deal flow to highlight on the program. Judah Wickower, Keith Smith, Jerry Miller, Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Thank you,
archived
everybody.
online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the Partners tab and find the trusted advisors in the game we call real estate. So long, everybody.
Thanks, guys.